Hi, everybody. This is Kelly Houston from rdandmama.com. I am a registered dietitian, and I am here to help people eat for fuel, eat for fun, and eat for life. So recently, I have been reading a book by Dana K. White, which is How to Manage Your Home Without Losing Your Mind. Because as you may have seen in my last video, I've just been having lots going on in addition to this same old quarantine stuff that everyone else in the world is dealing with. I've had some kind of health issues and hiccups, and also now finally getting to a point where my youngest is 1 and doesn't need, he can kind of play with the other kids a little bit. I have a little bit more time to get stuff together at home, which is helpful. So I've been reading her book, which I love. She also has a podcast, The Slob Comes Clean, and website also. So those are great resources to check out if you find that you were in the same boat as me. Unfortunately, as much as I love cooking, I do not like doing the dishes, and that is like her number one thing for a clean house. So we've had lots of changes the past couple of weeks, and it's for the better in terms of dish doing. So that's been really positive. So anyway, in her book, she talks about how before she underwent this deslobification process, which is what she titles what she has gone through in her blog, she would treat cleaning and decluttering like a project. So like there'd be a party at her house, and then there'd be this huge marathon cleaning session like the week before, and then a few days after the party's over, then things are just kind of back to normal. And she's like, how did we get from this perfectly clean party house to kind of being a disaster? And what she talks about is that, cleaning is not a project, unfortunately. It is something that just has to be done every day in order to keep on top of things. And as she was kind of going through her story, and she goes obviously into a lot more detail in her book, I was hit with all these images of conversations I've had with clients in the past who are going from diet to diet throughout their life. So they have a big event coming up, and they're like, oh, I'm going to do keto, or I'm going to do whatever. And it's this huge lifestyle shift for a couple weeks or a couple months, and then the event comes, and then it's like, oh, forget it. Or they go, hard and heavy for a few weeks on it, like even if they consider it to be, say, a lifestyle change. And then after time, it's just not sustainable. And it's just hard. It's not sustainable. So, so they stop sustaining it. And so in Dana's book, she has a list, or like her 4 basic duties, 4 basic things that need to be done every day, no matter what, then leaving time for like bigger weekly and less frequent cleaning tasks as well. But I was kind of thinking that there is a lot of similarity between that and just basic good nutrition. So here are my kind of 4 basic tips for balanced nutrition, and I will be having this on a printable that if you are on my mailing list, you will get it sent straight to your inbox. Otherwise, it will be on my website coming up in the next week or so. I need to do some updates there, so that will be one of the updates. So here are my 4 balanced nutrition tips, things that should be hopefully sustainable, that can be done daily without a lot of hassle or anything. And then if we can do it kind of slow and steady instead of a stop, start sort of thing, we're generally pretty better off. So the first tip is to eat consistently. So our body is working 24/7, even when we're asleep. We need nutrition, even if it's 8 o'clock at night, say we haven't had dinner yet. Well, guess what? Our body was going to be going, say, another 12 hours till breakfast, and it needs nutrition. So eating consistently. Some other perks with eating consistently is that if we're not like saving up our calories or whatever for like until dinner time or until the evening, then we don't tend to overeat as often. So if we can eat at least every 3 to 5 hours to provide our body and brain with nutrition and fuel to complete what we need to complete, doing the dishes, for example, without being distracted by food in the back of our mind. And what's kind of interesting is that research has shown that people with eating disorders think about food a lot. So people that experience like bulimia or binge eating disorder can think of it in like around 75% of their day. People with anorexia think of it over 100% because they often also have dreams about food. So if you are preoccupied with food, that's probably a good sign that you need to eat a little bit more consistently. Tip 2 is to eat enough. So kind of in that same vein, I like to encourage my clients to eat meals that will hold them over for at least 3 hours. And that's going to look a little bit different for everyone. And it's going to even look a little different for the same person from day to day, especially depending on how active they've been, what else is going on in their life. And then I encourage them to eat snacks that will have at least 2 hours of staying power. So I talk to my clients about looking at each eating experience as a teaching moment. So if my client's like, oh, I had a meal, but I'm hungry 2 hours later, does that mean I just like don't eat for an hour being hungry? And so the answer is no. If you're hungry, you should probably eat. But next time, maybe consider, oh, hey, I had this for my meal and it didn't really fill me up for very long. So maybe next time I need to add something else to it. That way, again, we can kind of get through our day without being focused on food. We can use that time in between meals and snacks to actually focus on things that we need to accomplish, need to get done, and need to get done well without having that nagging hunger feeling in the background. Tip 3 is to add variety. And so not all the time, but most of the time with most clients I work with, fruits, veggies, and dairy seem to be the ones that the food groups that don't get as much attention. So I like to encourage those and like try to think of ways that we can bring those into daily life. And if you have seen my other videos, you know that just saying something like, oh, just eat more fruits and vegetables is not just as cut and dry as it seems. There's actually a lot of steps that go into that. Like you have to put them on your shopping list, and then you have to buy them, and then you have to, store them, and then make a plan. Like, when are you going to eat them before they go bad? So it's not just like so simple, but if we can get into the habit of like, oh, at breakfast, I always have a piece of fruit, or I always have a yogurt. At lunch, I always have a vegetable, that kind of thing, then that can make it a little easier. So I like to encourage 3 food groups per meal and 2 food groups per snack. And what that does is it gives us a wide variety of the macronutrients, so carbs, protein, and fat, and a wide variety of micronutrients, which are vitamins and minerals, not to mention antioxidants if we're including, plant foods as well, and fiber. And that just makes our body feel more nourished, and we tend to just get by a little bit easier. Again, we feel more satisfied with that variety instead of just like eating, let me pick on like the typical, our typical like foods that we would pick on. There's really nothing wrong with Oreos or Doritos, but that just seems to be like the foods to get bad rap. So sorry, Oreos and Doritos. But we're not going to get a wide variety of like protein, for example, or fiber or antioxidants if we're eating just Oreos and Doritos. And the same would go with broccoli too. Like we could eat broccoli all day long, and that's not going to give us protein or fat or, a lot of just other nutrients. Or chicken breast. We could eat chicken breast all day, and we're not going to have any carbs, very little fat, minimal antioxidants. So it's not just about like, oh, I'm eating a healthy food or I'm eating a less healthy food. It's the big picture. We need that variety in there. And then the 4th thing is to add fun. So we want to eat fun foods. We want to incorporate fun foods. We want to incorporate those Doritos and Oreos in a way that feels good. And that's going to, again, look different for every person. But if we tell ourselves we can never have Doritos or we can never have Oreos, for example, and it could be any food, insert your chosen food here. If we tell ourselves we can never have it, guess what we're going to want? We're going to want the Oreos and the Doritos. And then when we finally eat them, it's going to not feel very good because we're going to probably eat a little bit more than we would maybe like to, which is going to feel uncomfortable physically and then also emotionally, because we're going to say, oh, I thought I was never going to have this again. How could I let myself get here when it's not really a willpower thing? It's like a brain thing. Our brains want what we can't have. Our brains like food that tastes good. That's how humans survive, is because we eat and it is pleasurable. Following those 4 steps, eat consistently, eat enough, add variety, and add fun, that can change overall the big picture of diet over time. So I hope that you guys found this helpful, and please know that if you are struggling with eating or nutrition, I do offer one-on-one counseling, either online or in person in my office in Maryville, Illinois. So please feel free to reach out for that. You can find more info on my website, which is rdnmama.com. And thanks so much for watching, guys. I would love to hear if this is helpful, which tips you have incorporated, and what else you would like to hear more about. So thank you so much.